Hello and welcome. This recording is a presentation about the outcomes of the review of the National Mediator Accreditation System in Australia and recommendations for the Australian Mediator and Dispute Resolution Accreditation System, the AMDRAS. Before I proceed, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of Australia and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and particularly acknowledge any First Nations people that are watching this. I come to you not from that country, from the east coast of Australia in the lands of the Gunnerai people. I'm Joanne Law, Director of Mediation Institute, a Mediator Standards Board member since 20. If you have any questions about this presentation, or you would like to arrange for me or one of the other board members to present to your group or organisation, please get in touch either directly or you can contact the Mediator Standards Board through the website, which is msb.org.au. Just to give you a little bit of context, the current standards were seriously contemplated in the year 2000. There was a lot of work done by leading mediators to establish an accreditation system, and that resulted in the first version of the standards and the establishment of the Mediator Standards Board about 8 to 10 years later after that consultation. The second version of the National Mediator Accreditation System was released with some incremental changes from the first version. And then in 2020, 20 years after the start of this process, the NMAS review was undertaken. So there was some research undertaken by Resolution Resources. The Mediator Standards Board Review Committee was then formed, and they've developed a draft AMDRAS standards. Since 2022 into 2023, the board has worked on those standards, and we released a draft version in August 2023. There's a consultation period available, talking with any stakeholders interested in doing so over the coming months, closing off before the end of the year in December. The new version of the standards, the AMDRAS, is projected to replace the NMAS or NMAS, depending on how you like to pronounce it, in 2024. There will be a transition period which will allow for the sector to adapt to the change. What was identified in the research was a need to provide better recognition of the diversity of non-determinative dispute resolution for this sector, and to have a way to differentiate the different experience levels of dispute resolution practitioners, and also some of the practices that are, I guess you could say, non-standard mediation, but still fall within the realm of non-determinative practice. There was also a clear request for more support and guidance from the Mediator Standards Board from the mediation sector. We had over 800 mediators and industry training and accreditation representatives who contributed to the review, and it also encompassed some research into other sectors and jurisdictions. So what's resulted is the AMDRAS. Rather than being a single document, it's now in parts. The core part of the AMDRAS document is made up of 8 sections or parts. One is a bit of an overview. We've introduced some definitions, glossary and interpretation of terms. There's a part that gives information about the objectives and application of the AMDRAS, the training and accreditation framework, which is supplemented by an extensive appendix, the practice standards and professional domains, which is also supplemented by an appendix, recognised providers. These are the people that train, accredit and provide complaint handling, similar services for mediators through this system, the National Register of Accredited Mediators, and the AMDRAS Board. The former system, National Mediator Accreditation System, was made up of 6 parts. It's been expanded a little to hopefully clarify further. And then, as I mentioned, we have the appendices, again providing more guidance around professional development, code of ethics, the professional skills, ethics and responsibilities expected of accredited mediator, and a sample complaint handling process for recognised providers. It's a suggested model policy. It's not a compulsory policy to adopt, but if you are a provider and you have a different approach to complaint handling, it still needs to be approved by the board. So as I mentioned, we're in a consultation process. Please pay attention to what's available. There will be face-to-face and online events happening around the country. With the consultation process, we're reaching out to members of the board who are generally organisations such as the training, assessment and accreditation providers, government departments and other stakeholders, to the mediators yourselves, so those people who are accredited under the system, government as national accreditation system is referenced in legislation and various other places, and anyone else who's interested. Some of the ways that we are doing this is we've been releasing and we'll continue to release some press releases. We've released the documents. There were presentations and the opportunity to discuss at the NMC conference in New Zealand in September. The call for comments is open, and you're able to do that through the Mediator Standards Board website or at any of the consultations in person or online. We really, really want to hear from you. Via the website is the best place to submit your written comments. It's quite a simple address, msb.org.au/NMAS-review. Now, I want to give you just a very brief overview of some of the major changes to the process to train and accredit mediators. Currently, under the NMAS, there is only one level of accreditation. You're either nationally accredited or you're not. Under the proposed changes, there'll be 3 levels: accredited, mediator, advanced mediator, and leading mediator. There's also the provision to provide for specialist categories. Nothing is provided in the current standards. What's proposed for the AMDRAS is that specialist practitioner categories are possible, but the criteria for them will not be determined in isolation by the Mediator Standards Board. We're expecting that will happen in consultation with groups, organisations, specialist practice areas that believe that their process is distinct enough from standard mediation that's trained to warrant being recognised as a specialist category. The COT, the Certificate of Training, and the training requirements have changed. They go from the current 38 hours of training to 45-hour Certificate of Training course. There's also more guidance regarding the training. It's about half theory and half practical, so through role play, but there's a more expectation that mediators will have a really good grasp of the theory of conflict, as well as understanding the scope of the non-determinative sector. The certificate of assessment is more defined. At the moment, there's a 90-minute assessment that needs to be provided by people other than the trainers. Under the new system, there would be much greater demarcation between the two. The certificate of assessment also requires a written or in other format theory assessment. And again, a written assessment may be the easier way. It may not be the best way in all circumstances. And recognised providers will be able to propose alternative ways of assessing the theoretical understanding of applicants. There's also a proposal that the duration of that role play increases from the 90 minutes to 2 to 2.5 hours to make sure that there's a thorough demonstration of every stage in the process. A few more changes in the training and accreditation framework. The next level of accreditation, the first level above entry, is Advanced Mediator, and there's a proposal of a new training, a reflective practice group workshop, which would provide an opportunity to ensure that people working at that Advanced Mediator accreditation level are participating in reflective practice and ongoing development of their skills and knowledge. Recognition of prior learning remains. There are still alternative pathways to recognition of other training that's not specifically trained in accordance with the standards, and also opportunities to have assessment recognise some changes, some more clarification than significant changes in those pathways. Accreditation, currently there are requirements around the training, the assessment, being of good character, ensuring that there's a complaint handling service, that there's professional indemnity insurance, and there's a payment of fee that goes to the Mediator Standards Board and, in most cases, the accrediting body. With the AMDRAS, there is some clarification, but not necessarily major changes other than specified in the certificate of training and the certificate of assessment. And renewal. Currently, it's every 2 years. There's 25 hours of professional development required and 25 hours of mediation experience, mediation or co-mediation or conciliation. In what's proposed is it remains biannual, so every 2 years renewing. The hours required change. Accredited practitioners, it's reduced slightly down to 20 hours. And for the advanced or leading mediators, it's increased to 40 hours for both categories. For professional development, it remains at 25 hours per level. The levels of mediator accreditation for an accredited mediator, so this is someone whose entry, their first accreditation, and potentially people can remain at this level, certificate of training, certificate of assessment, and meeting all of the accreditation requirements. An advanced mediator is expected to have 2 years as an accredited mediator, 40 hours of practice experience, and have completed the practicum certificate, which is largely based on reflective practice. And the leading mediator, 6 years experience as an advanced mediator, 250 practice hours as an advanced mediator, and relevant continuing professional development congruent with the role of a leading mediator. So there's some detail there that you might need to have a look at if those are the levels that you're aspiring to. Now, of course, there needs to be a transition period, because as you can see from entry level, it's 2 years to become an advanced mediator, and then 6 years as an advanced mediator. So that's an 8-year process. But we will be really looking forward to hearing your thoughts about what the transition arrangement should be. Renewal for the levels of accreditation. So this is at the renewal stage, 24 hours of non-determinative dispute resolution practice, which can include 5 hours of observation. So in practice, that might be 3 mediations over the 2 years, as well as an observation. So high bar. 5 hours of continuing professional development, and of course meeting all ongoing ethical obligations. For advanced mediators to renew, 40 hours of mediation or co-mediations. For an advanced mediator, it can drop back down to accredited mediator if they haven't done a huge amount of practice. 25 hours of CPD and ongoing obligations. With leading mediators, it's the same number of practice hours, but the continuing professional development includes that leadership role and mentoring. So as far as a transition plan, the AMDRAS has quite a lot of flexibility to allow for transition to the next levels for existing mediators. However, there may be the need to provide some evidence. Guidelines regarding when and how the transition will occur will be developed during the consultation process. There's also the need, most likely, for the Mediator Standards Board constitution to be changed, and that may include actually changing the name. So rather than the Mediator Standards Board, it may change to the AMDRAS Board. That's one of the proposals. With the specialist practitioner categories, we haven't prescribed what they would be. Some of the areas that we hope will emerge may be conciliation, family dispute resolution, First Nations peacemaking, and potentially some other areas as well. Another area where the structure has changed, as well as some of the content, the practice standards and ethics. AMDRAS Part 5 covers the professional domains, which are what would be regarded as the practice standards. Also Appendix 2, which has the PD, Code of Ethics, and the Professional Skills, Ethics and Responsibilities appendices. So make sure that you do read the appendices. There are supporting documents there that are relevant. The professional domain, so see Appendix 1 and 4 for details. There are 25 professional attributes that are identified under 4 professional domains. So professional knowledge, professional skills, professional ethics and responsibilities, and professional development. With complaint handling, it's mentioned in various parts of the AMDRAS and also in the complaint handling draft policy that's provided as Appendix 5. The key takeaways, the NDRAFS is made up of both the core document and the appendices. It's really important that you read all of them and read them in context. The consultation process is an opportunity for the board to refine and improve this version of the standards where necessary, so that we are able to produce the best document possible as the next version of the National Accreditation System in Australia. And we believe that the new structure will allow for greater flexibility and transparency as our sector grows towards continuing professionalisation of dispute resolution work. Thank you and congratulations if you got all the way to the end of this recording. Please visit the Mediator Standards Board site, make sure you're on the mailing list, and if you can, get to one of the live sessions where you'll be able to ask your questions about any of the proposed changes that you feel you need more clarification or that you think will have unintended consequences. Okay, thank you again. Goodbye.